Oh, I am already emotional. Hi, everybody. How's it going? You good? Hey, Doug. Wow, I didn't think this hit me. It would hit me this quickly. I'd like you all to indulge me. Please close your eyes. All right? I want us to close our eyes together and now take a deep breath. Breathe in. Breathe out. Try desperately not to think about work. What you're doing after this, what you're doing this weekend, who hasn't texted you back. Wherever your mind has decided to go right now, let it stay there for a moment. I want you to really try and be present in whatever this is. And please try to remember it, because there'll be homework. Okay, now open your eyes. Hi, Creative Mornings. How's it going? My name is Jonas Chisolm. Hi, Mom. I book the shows at the Poorhouse. Hi, Adam. Amongst lots of other things. And one of the many realizations that I came to while crafting this little talk is that while an at times overwhelming amount of people know of me, not many people know me. And since it's not every day that you're handed a podium and a microphone, I decided, why not? So here's most of my story, mostly in order, in the hopes that you see a little bit of yourselves in it. I was born in California. I've lived here in Raleigh, though, most of my life. Since we couldn't afford to all come at once, the men in my family all packed into a Greyhound while my mom and my sisters stayed and worked. They saved as much as they could and joined us later. I don't remember much of the bus ride here, and it's not because I was 5 years old. It's because I was essentially drugged. I was given Benadryl whenever I would wake up, and it would put little Jonas, don't worry, you're safe, you're safe. She wasn't there, as previously stated. I was given Benadryl whenever I'd wake up, and it would put me right to sleep. Now, the older I've gotten and the more time I've spent around children, the less issue I have with this. Turmoil is the most gracious word I could use to describe my childhood. Things changed a lot. We could go from living in a garage to living in a house to all living separately in apartments with whoever was nice enough to take us in. Thanks to general malaise and health issues, I didn't graduate high school. Never once did I ever truly consider college a possibility. And after my early 20s were spent in retail and sales, I crashed and burned just enough to finally get off that horse. One day in 2018, I went to an open mic of all things, just to see my friend's band. And I had an admittedly ridiculous idea. What if I managed them? Why is that ridiculous? So glad you asked. Well, I'm not a musician. I had never been in a band. I quite literally had only been to a handful of local shows, and I really needed to make more money. So essentially, I was not qualified, and this was going to solve none of my problems. Knowing all this, though, I asked anyways, and for some reason, they agreed. From there, I'd say my life finally started. I became a promoter of sorts. I learned how to book shows. I learned how to get people to come to them. I learned how much work it took to make something creative work while collaborating with other people. I met so many people. A lot of them are in this room right now. So much of why I'm still here, in every way, is owed to that idea at that open mic. When the pandemic started, I found myself thrust into an identity crisis. Without shows, who am I to people? Who am I to myself? What good was any of the work that I'd done if it could disappear so abruptly? That was all put to the side one night, a few weeks into the pandemic, when I walked out of my room and I saw my roommate working on something. It was a t-shirt. Hi, Liz. It's that t-shirt right there. And it was a really cool design on it. He was thinking about making it a sticker for fun, and then we both had a ridiculous idea. What if this shirt was real and we sold it for charity? What if we tried to help venue and restaurant employees that we felt we owed so much to? And just like that, before I'd even realized it, I'd become an organizer. It turned out that the Venn diagram for being a promoter and for being an organizer was just one circle, quite literally. All right, it took the same amount, the same process of convincing folks to come to a march was the same as getting them to come to a local band, local beer. They'd show up if they liked you, and they couldn't think of anything else to do that night. That summer, I met so many people discovering the same thing that I was. The folks leading the way weren't career politicians or revolutionaries in the traditional sense. They were artists, they were musicians, they were promoters, they were just creatives, trying their best. After a tumultuous summer of riots and occupation, dozens of arrests, including my own, I helped found the New South Collective. A group of people that could feel folks becoming burnt out on what the process of protesting had become. We channeled the energy that we felt folks had left into one big project, turning a retired school bus into a home for a friend that hadn't had it in a long time, maybe ever. Only one of us had any real skills for construction. That didn't stop us. Looking back, it admittedly feels ridiculous. Hopefully now you're starting to sense a little bit of a pattern. After that, it was a whole lot of nothing. 2 years of holding on, and I had no idea what I was holding on to. Something, something, something. Now I booked the shows at the Poorhouse. I've started Double Dutch with my dear friends Doug and Julian, and I'm the person that's in front of you today. I told you my story before discussing the theme, because everything I mentioned was done while having a full-time job, while I'm sure really wanted my undivided attention. Some people would call what I was doing daydreaming, a distraction, not important, but it never felt like that to me. I had no knowledge, no experience, no real hard skills, as I like to call them, but they never felt too big, even though none of them were ever on paper. Reverie, a state of being pleasantly lost in one's thoughts, a daydream. Do you remember when we all took that breath together? Do you remember where you went? I'm going to call that place there. There, that was more than just a clever way to kill a minute. It's the reason I'm here, I think. We're going to go there together again. So please close your eyes. Try to be present in that one more time. And for some reason, I purposely didn't write the next part. So I'm going to go there with you. You're safe here. The distractions in life are when you open your eyes. This is us at our most innocent, at our most safe, at our most creative. The little boy I told you about earlier, this is where he would go when he wanted to feel safe. And that place is here for all of you if you're willing to go there. And together, that is exactly where we all must go as things move forward. You can go open your eyes. I had really been struggling to compose this talk for weeks for so many reasons. A big reason was because I've done absolutely nothing alone. The Raleigh Tea was something me and my dear friend Chappie worked on together in our living room. The New South Collective was just that, a collective. The one notable project we completed even was the result of hundreds of donations, hundreds of volunteer hours. Even now, as a talent buyer for the Poorhouse, I'm just simply a cog in a machine that's been there for a decade. Really, 3 decades, but in its current place, a decade. I was really worried that I wouldn't be able to acknowledge that, and obviously I was wrong. I just did. I was also struggling because I wanted to be impactful, I wanted to be original, I wanted to be cool, I wanted to leave people with something that they'd be talking about. I wanted this to be so many things that literally until Monday of this week, it ended up being nothing. So I closed my eyes, I went there, and I gave up on that ridiculous idea. Thank you. I don't know if I moved from this place, so I'm just gonna stick right here.
going to switch it over to Q&A, which is my personal favorite part of this event. So Jacob's going to come around with a microphone if you have a question. I'll get us started. The burning question in my mind is, you've been here for quite some time. Why Raleigh?
Well, the short answer is, as you guys heard earlier, I didn't really have a choice. I got put in that Greyhound, given something to make me feel good, and then I was here. And we were poor, so I couldn't move. But the long answer is that I have found that community works in the way that the more you engage with it, the more you get out of it. And for some reason, be it Southern hospitality, the amount of people being just small enough, everything I've ever given Raleigh, it has given me back tenfold. It is, the more I've engaged with it, the more I see the value in it. And it's my home. Hi, Mom.
I'm his mom. I just want to say that as a witness to everything that he just said, the person who is standing in front of you today, I could not be more proud of.
I'm good. Next question.
But you talked a lot about just like taking a risk with everything that you've done, and a lot of that sounds like it's all built on community. You just told us why you love Raleigh, and I have loved learning more about what you're doing with Double Dutch, but my question there is, how do we all be a part of the constant evolution of our community? I think that's one of the things that I love. I've lived here my whole life, and this is a place that's always changing, but I always say I want it to change collectively, not just one thing together. So how do we all kind of join in and be a part of the work that you're doing?
I guess to go along with my answer to the first question, you engage with it. I think that's where a lot of people get lost, is they disengage. They had a way of life at one point, and if they feel like that doesn't connect with them anymore, or they don't feel like they get anything out of it, or that they're not part of the process, kind of like what Moses was talking about. Belonging is probably the most important aspect of it. People that either have the right intentions and don't have the knowledge, or that don't have the right intentions will just try to show up anywhere and squeeze something out of it. And the idea that community is like a mall. And it's not. It's more like a flea market, I guess. But essentially, what I would say to anyone like trying to grow with Raleigh, as it grows for the worse or the best or the better, is just to stick around, to dare yourself to try new places, to go back to old spaces that you may have an idea of, and just kind of build from there. Because the people, for the most part, the people that have made Raleigh special, at least to me, they're still out there. They're still working. They're still trying desperately not to shout to no one, essentially, or work alone. And so they're there. I would just keep trying to find them. If you haven't already, but I feel like you have, you got the shirt, you know. But yeah, I would just say keep making Raleigh special, because that question in and of itself is what I feel does.
I love that answer. I think everyone here, keep making Raleigh special. And next question from Elise.
Hello. I know your work right now is in music, and you said that you are not a musician, but I saw you at the Great Cover-Up this year. Can you just talk more about that experience and what it was like, being on the stage, and how you chose the band?
Okay, that's a lot. I didn't expect a question about the cover-up. Okay, so I'll start with, it was very similar to this. I made it into a mountain. I stressed about it, I overthought it, and I ended up procrastinating in a way that I wasn't proud of. But the reason I picked the band is the same reason why I believe it went so well, is because I was just trying to get my friend's band playing again. And it was the band that they would agree to do. And I ended up finding so much of myself in that band. I didn't even know I looked like Brittany Howard until the day of the event, essentially. For context, I guess, I was the Alabama Shakes for the Great Cover-Up. The Great Cover-Up is my favorite event in Raleigh. I think it's a big reason of why I fell in love with it, because it is all the fun of karaoke, with about 150% of the fun of charity, and all the fun of what I love about music, which is essentially just an excuse for us all to get together. And so I loved it. It was a highlight of mine, like just personally, and also it puts me at ease now, and that's all I've been listening to this morning, getting ready for this.
I have a question. As the resident music expert, what are some up-and-coming local musicians that we should be aware of or put us on to?
All right, so I wouldn't call them up-and-coming. They're playing hopscotch, but they are probably one of the best bands in the state. I can just start rattling off some names. Duck, first and foremost. All right, they're not just an incredibly tight band, they're incredibly tight dudes. Arson Daly is probably the reason I'm here. They added a sense of legitimacy to the outside world for some reason, even though they were just my friends. People thought I managed them for years, but they were just cool dudes. Up and coming is kind of where I would say Good Deal. They're an up-and-coming indie rock band. I think that Good Deal is my future, at least, as I got to pick my next groupie band to be. And then I'll leave with Max Gowan. I think that Max is incredible. He's really talented, and he forms a soup of indie rock that is special, and that's why he's playing hopscotch.
This isn't really a question, but I knew Jonas back when he worked at Best Buy in like 2012 or 13.
Yeah, I was like 18 years old.
Yeah, I would come to Best Buy, sell games. He was the Best Buy guy. That was our interaction. I would sell him the games. He'd be like, "Oh, what do you think about this game?" I'm like, "It's cool." That's it. And then we kind of reconnected in like 2018, 2019. So it's just really cool to see you go from the guy from Best Buy to speaking at the art museum.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions for you, just two. The first one is related to karaoke because that's how I know you. So, for those of you who don't know, one thing that he also does is the Neptunes karaoke DJ.
Every Wednesday, baby. That's how I knew to keep the mic close.
So, okay, first question is related to that. What is your favorite song that someone sings or that you would like to sing? And then the second question is more serious. So obviously you talked about housing and homelessness and how you've experienced that, and I'd really like for you to explain to people who maybe haven't necessarily experienced that, what is like the one thing that you wish people knew about that experience? Thank you.
All right. It's like a curveball with a slider just at the same time. Okay, so with karaoke, I'm kind of a sellout in a sense of like, I don't care how good you are at singing. If no one knows the song, what are we doing? So that being said, I'd be remiss, as I've been given a podium and a microphone once again, to not mention Valerie. I think that is our new standard. I think I genuinely believe that like we could go to Japan right now, they'd know every word, or not. But every single time that plays, everyone knows it. I walk into certain places for karaoke and they just put that song on and hand me a microphone sometimes. And then to answer your second question, I finally have unpacked enough of my early childhood in the last 2 years to be able to answer it. But every single day is survival. And I think that when you hear that, you think of a movie, you think of something. If you're lucky enough to be born with enough privilege, no matter who you are, to where you don't fully understand what it's like to wake up and not know where you're going to sleep that night, or not even what you're going to eat that morning. Me and my mother had many hard talks at a very young age of just like, hey, this is what we have to eat this week. That's exhausting. I think that is the most important thing I could mention. Like, it is exhausting. I didn't know rest until the pandemic. I was always on edge. There was no solid foundation. It was like walking with half your legs. And it's unfortunately got a lot to do with why I didn't graduate high school. It's got a lot to do with why I never considered college a possibility, because I was focused on survival from essentially the moment I got off that Greyhound.
Hi, Jonas.
Hi.
What is your process for moving through the messiest middle of your projects?
Okay, so I'm really glad you asked that question, because on, I do believe Tuesday night, I was getting a drink to celebrate a successful event with my buddies in Double Dutch, and also happened to be interrupted very pleasantly by my buddy Connor. And I was telling them that I was freaking out. I didn't have enough of this written down, I didn't know what I was going to do, and it very much reminded me of every single moment I've tried to do something that felt bigger than me. And essentially, to answer your question in a different way, I asked for help. I reeled myself just enough back in to be able to leave enough space for the work that needs to get done. And that is where I was really focused on at least mentioning that I didn't do any of this alone. Oh, there we go. Hi.
It sounds like you kind of found yourself in the event, live music space is a bit of a happy accident. Was there a specific moment throughout your career where you decided that was the industry and community that you wanted to invest in?
Yes. Unconsciously, it was probably at that open mic that I talked about. I was desperate to be a part of something that I loved, and they let me. The conscious answer is in 2019, Adam let me throw my birthday party at the poorhouse, and it went really well. It was awesome, and I was like, yeah, putting people in a room, there really is nothing like it. And I hope people understand that, even going back thousands of years, I think that's what's connected us as human beings, is the ability to put people we know or don't know in a room together and experience something together. So I, ironically enough, went into New Year's that year. My birthday's in December, for context. I went into New Year's that year, and my first resolution was I want a job in the music industry. And then the pandemic hit. But God works in mysterious ways, I guess.
Question over here.
Over here, thank you, Jonas. I'm curious. Let's flip it around. Talk about a lot of positive things.
Hell yeah.
Going on.
What's up?
So, if you had to reverie about what Raleigh could do better as a community, what initiatives have you thought in your life that, boy, if we could only get around doing this, but it's been such a struggle? What would that be?
It's a hell of a question. We have a real estate problem in every single way. Housing's not affordable. Businesses aren't affordable. There were vacant businesses in the heart of downtown before all that glass got broken. And I think that real estate is how we're going to at least attempt to bridge somewhat of the gap. I think housing is doomed. There's just too much money in it for developers to go for anyone else but who can afford $3,000 apartments, unfortunately. But from a business perspective, it's about the people that can put spaces in people's hands, new spaces going forward, so there's less pressure on the old spaces, in people that are passionate hands. And so they can essentially take that torch and move forward with just continuing what I feel makes Raleigh special, and it's hasn't come to a halt because these old spaces are still going, these people are still here. But in 5 years, if there's still just 2 venues, I don't see that being sustainable. I don't see that being remotely good or cool. And also, like, what good is a city with just apartments, essentially? So I think that's how we start to kind of bridge that gap.
Living touches.
My question for you is about, there's like a string of self-determination throughout your personal story, like where you say you started from to where you are now and the work you're doing. Like starting a mutual aid fund while you have a full-time job is pretty admirable. So I'm wondering, like, how on days when you feel like you need to push yourself to get through the confidence or self-doubt, I'm wondering what your inner monologue sounds like when you're having bad days, and maybe how that evolved through, 10 years ago when you were working not where you're doing now.
Thank you. Well, I guess to answer the second half of that question, 10 years ago I didn't have one. I was lost. I got through each day. Did I work that day? Cool. If I didn't work that day, there wasn't really much of a difference in my life. And then after I say my life started in 2018, for that exact reason, because that's where that monologue started. Now, I can't say that this is healthy or sustainable within myself or others, but to answer your question, I would say to myself, someone has to. And it doesn't look like anyone would want to, so I just simply decided to, and I would keep deciding to until it got done. And that is where most of the joy in my life has come from. And I think that attitude of, well, someone has to, it might as well be me, is mostly why I'm up here, to be honest with you.
And one from Danny. Let's see if I can get this going here.
There's 2 of you right here. That's crazy. Is that planned out? There we go. I listened to this morning as I woke up because it put me in a place of serenity. And it is a genuine highlight of my life, no matter how weird that sounds. I don't know if he's asked me to sing or anything, but no, I'm good. Thank you, Danny. Bless your heart and bless your soul.
I was going to try and get it out of you, but I want to say, I think on behalf of everybody, thank you for being so open and your sense of humor and your spirit. We love hearing it here, but in the community we need it. My question is about the topic, the theme, daydreaming, and I want to hear what you're daydreaming for the poorhouse. Now that you're in this full-time role with Adam, what are you guys concocting? What are some big ideas?
Well, first of all, I guess maybe this is just my upbringing coming back, but sustaining it, I think is really important. A lot of people don't know how hard it is to even run a venue, but it's even harder to run a venue that's profitable. They're big money losers. I don't know if people knew that, but not when they're run by that guy. And I want to step into that shoe, just one, I guess. I want to step into those shoes. And do that, obviously. That's the big one, and that's why he called on me to do it. But I think that there is still a gap between the people that live here and the people that aren't as connected to the community as, say, the people that are in this room. And my hope is, over time, to have the poorhouse mean as much to them as it does to me. And that starts with belonging. So, like, I'm black, I'm queer. Like, I want people that are black and queer to understand that that space exists, because I don't believe that they do, right? Every time there's a hip-hop show, I can tell there's people that haven't been there before. We had Aniko, an incredible singer, songwriter, artist, TikTok influencer, and their sold-out show was incredible because no one knew how anything worked at the poorhouse. You could tell that there were 300 people that were experiencing it for the first time. And I want to do that as much as I can because I think that that's how we keep people engaged, personally. I don't think there's anything more powerful than a good show sometimes.
Thank you, Jonas.
Thank you. Can I put the mic down? Thanks, guys.